Well, a great big howdy to everybody. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me once more. Before we get into our topic for today, I'd like to remind everyone that the State Fair will be beginning later this week. And there's a lot of pageantry, a lot of excitement, a lot of gathering that only you can find at the State Fair. The main grand opening, so to speak, will occur Friday, and at the Village of Yesteryear and what's called Heritage Park, which is on the lower end of the fairgrounds, there will be a tobacco barn and a barn of tobacco put in the manner of the years gone by. And there'll be what we call a looping contest and a whole lot of historic, nostalgic reminders of days gone by with tobacco. So that is this coming Friday. And so we look forward to that. But to visit the current situation in tobacco and all, I'd like to get started on that. And here's a recap of the tobacco market up to the present. The marketing was seriously cut short and is continuing on, but the volume is not what it was. Prices have been high at warehouses in North Carolina that sell flue-cured leaf at auction. A representative of one of the warehouses, Tommy Faulkner, auction manager at American Tobacco Exchange of Wilson, tells us that sales at his house have gone very well so far. We've had good prices and high volume. The quality is good. Our prices have been competitive with contract prices. At American Tobacco Exchange, it has ranged from $1.65 to $2.55 a pound. Farmers seem to be well satisfied with the bids. There's been little or no rejection by farmers. Marketing this crop may prove quite a challenge since the volume seems certain to be quite short. This crop couldn't get out of its own way, what with the drought and then the hurricane, said Faulkner. Now we're looking at a very short crop. The auction warehouses serving flue-cured area in North Carolina include 2 in Wilson and 1 in Rural Hall. Rural Hall is up near Winston-Salem, and so there's an auction house for the Piedmont, and then there are 2 houses in Wilson. One is American Tobacco Exchange, and the other one is Horizon Limited. Moving along, looking back on the season in Georgia and Florida, they were probably the states worst hit by Tropical Storm Debbie. Most farmers will be significantly short of pounds, said J. Michael Moore, Georgia Extension Tobacco Specialist. We have about 50% of what we should have. Every tobacco county in this state was affected. We had very powerful winds in Florida. They got up to 80 to 90 miles per hour. Now this is in reference to Hurricane Debbie. The wind stripped leaf off the stalk, and sometimes the whipping effect caused premature yellowing. J. Michael Moore, Tobacco Extension for Georgia, said. In South Carolina, where the damage to Debbie was nearly as much as in Georgia and Florida, harvest is wrapped up, and a lot of the barning or curing will be over with. And this is a reflection on the season. Dry weather early on in the season stunted the crop, but rain in mid-July turned it around, and we were in good shape except for some soil-borne disease pressure. Then Tropical Storm Debbie arrived, causing bad losses of yield and quality. I would estimate there was 40 to 50% of the crop lost from the storm. One encouraging note, despite the challenging season, this crop seems to be moving well in the markets. Or in other words, what was harvested and saved is selling well. Moving into North Carolina in recap, There was a lot of tobacco still in the fields after Debbie passed through, said Matthew Van, North Carolina Extension Specialist. Deterioration was rapid in the worst areas, but the conditions stabilized thanks to cool weather, and the crop has responded very well considering the conditions. Some of the leaf that has been delivered has looked pretty good, Matthew Van, North Carolina Tobacco Extension Specialist, said. We are starting to see distinct stalk separation and good color being delivered. I'm hearing that we have a good orange crop in the field. Most of the leaf in the field now is ripe and ready for harvest, he adds. Looking ahead to Virginia, Virginia suffered less from Tropical Storm Debbie than the other flu-cured states. Stephen Bartz, extension agent in Pennsylvania County, estimated the losses in the south side caused by all of the late season bad weather were from 10% to 15%. Now the problem is harvesting what is left behind, and the question is whether there will be enough time to get it in. Now, since he said that, a tremendous amount of progress has been made, and yes, I think that they will harvest the crop very nicely, and all will go well in regard to that, because most of it, as we speak, is out of the field. Back to what Stephen Bartz, the Virginia Extension, said, we will probably be harvesting till October and maybe into November if the frost holds off. The long-term average first frost date is October 15th, but in the last few years it has tended to be later. So things have certainly been topsy-turvy and from one extreme to the other, but things have improved slightly, and thank goodness the prices have been good. Let me follow up with that with some facts and figures about this year's crop. The 2024 United States, in the United States, all tobacco production is forecast for 351 million pounds, down 6% from the previous forecast and down 12% from the 2023 for comparable states. Area harvested at 172,200 acres is up 1% from the previous month, but down slightly from last year for comparable states. Yield for the 2024 crop year is forecast at 2,040 pounds per acre and 279 pounds below last year's comparable record. Now, moving up to what has most recently occurred, that is the storm Helene. We'll see how it has impacted what I've already told you, that was all in reference to September, and now we're into October, needless to say. Was Helene a major obstacle to harvest? Growers are still in a cleanup mode in Georgia and Florida, said J. Michael Moore, Georgia Extension Tobacco Specialist, but the damage from Helene was nowhere near what Debbie caused. One reason is that harvest was for all practical purposes complete when Helene arrived. Some tobacco was still curing, causing problems where the power went out. Now we have almost finished marketing, said Moore. I know of several hundred bales that are going to be delivered next week. After that, there will be very little left to sell. We are close to closing the doors on this crop. There was a good market for the pickings or the residue this season. A lot of them went for $1 a pound. Now that another word for that is floor sweepings. The pickings have very little quality, and they can be used for filler and things like that in tobacco products. And so if it went for $1 a pound, that was pretty good for that style of tobacco. Moore estimates that Georgia, Florida growers will market maybe 55% of what they expected to market. So many of our farmers are way short on pounds. They may be short for financing too, but my impression is that local lenders still have faith in tobacco farmers. In South Carolina, no tobacco remained in the field in South Carolina when Helene struck, says William Hardy, Extension Tobacco Specialist. In the PD, winds got up as high as 40 to 50 miles an hour with 3 to 6 inches of rain. That was very mild compared to upstate South Carolina and surrounding states. We were very fortunate, said Hardy. 2024 was a very challenging season with a lower yield than we hoped for. However, good prices at the marketplace have helped our growers. Most are ready to put this season behind them. Moving into North Carolina, in the east, farmers should finish harvest any day now. And as we speak this morning, a vast majority of the tobacco crop has been harvested, and the harvest is all but over. And we're looking here naturally in mid-October, which is right on time for some of the larger operations. Matthew Van, NC Extension Tobacco Specialist, said, "We have no frost warning yet, and I don't think there's going to be a problem. Barring another disaster, we should finish the crop very well and smoothly. In the Old Belt, we probably should have 2 or 3 weeks to go, but the recent storms may have caused enough plant stress to prematurely curtail that. There was definitely more stress from Hurricane Helene in the Piedmont than the coastal plain. No more than 15% of the flu-cured crop is in the field now," Van said, maybe less. An estimated 55% of the North Carolina barley crop was still in the field as of September 29th, according to the USDA assessment. The extreme rains and winds associated with Helene would have been catastrophic for NC barley in the old days, but now so little barley has grown that there's less of a problem. In the coastal plain, damage from Helene was extremely minimal. What there was mainly infrastructure damage. There were power outages and some localized flooding. So that's a review of Hurricane Helene from a tobacco perspective. And here's something that is interesting to note in regard to that. Why did Helene strike so savagely in the ultimate western part of the state? Helene brought historic rain and flooding to many of the mountain towns of western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, says TV station WIS-10. This was because leading up to Helene, parts of the mountains received 8 to 16 inches of rain from a stalled front the previous Tuesday to Thursday. Then as Helene moved north, it continued to provide moisture to create even more rain for the mountains. In total parts of western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, they received 2 to 3 feet of rain over a span of 4 days. That's about as much rain as they get over 4 to 5 months. So I guess you would say there was a stalled system of moisture, and then when it was released and it began to spread, it just continued on and on. And many of our neighbors are continuing to rebound from that as we speak. Looking at tobacco from a standpoint of use, let me share a recent statistic. Smoking among Americans hits a record low. Cigarette smoking in the United States has reached an all-time low this year, according to Gallup, which has been monitoring smoking trends for 8 decades. This reports from UPI. The latest survey, based on Gallup's annual consumption habit poll conducted in July of 2024, shows 11% of U.S. adults said they smoked cigarettes in the past week. That matches Gallup's other lowest outcome in 2022 and comes close to the 12% smoking trend in 2023. In 1944, when Gallup first surveyed Americans about cigarettes, 41% of adults said they smoked. Smoking peaked in 1954, with 45% of respondents saying they smoked. By the late 1980s, the smoking rate had declined, but was still more than 3 times what it is today. This year's survey shows 79% of Americans view cigarettes as very harmful, while 57% view e-cigarettes or vaping in the same way. Gallup also attributes the large drop in cigarette smoking to young adults who are less likely to smoke cigarettes and more likely to smoke e-cigarettes, according to the 2022 to 2024 data, which says 18% of the adults aged 18 to 29 vape. The most recent cohort of young adults are responsible for much of the change, according to Gallup. Today's young adults have substituted e-cigarettes for tobacco cigarettes, as roughly 3 times as many young adults vape as smoke cigarettes. So the vaping is taking on with the younger generation, and traditional cigarette smoking in public places, indeed, particularly in modernized worlds, modernized countries, is on the decline. That's all the time I have. Thank you for letting me tune in, and look forward to being with you next week. Have a good week, and God bless you.